Welcome to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon, the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Usually we have guests. This week, we've decided to do something different because so many people have no idea what Daniel does, what his business does, what his business is about. And we're trying to give an education on the bail bonds and monitoring industry. What do they do? How do they work? How does he partner with municipalities to be able to give people the opportunity to get bonded out of jail, to have an ankle monitor, which would keep them out of jail, out of incarceration, and being able to live a relatively normal life? Daniel, you're the star of the show today, man. No,
I don't know what I did to deserve this, but
exactly. All kinds of bad things, I think.
Right.
That's why you're being punished today. No, but seriously, I do think there's so much out there that people don't understand. Until we started doing this show, and we've done a lot of shows now, I had no idea. There's things that I could probably answer now that I would have never imagined that I could have answered before, but I feel like there's plenty out there that I still have no idea about. And we've been doing the show, like I said, for a really long time. So we'll start with how you started your business, why you started your business, why what you do is important, and why people should understand it better. So let's start with why you started your business.
Well, I mean, I fell into the industry, I guess, 2004, working for a friend of mine, Charles Shaw.
Doing the same thing?
Yeah, he was doing the same thing. I had moved here from Miami to kind of start over, and kind of was just living in Buckhead and doing my thing and being a young, early 20-year-old kid.
Life's tough.
Yeah, and it was time to go to work, and
that's when life does get tough.
That's right. Yeah, when reality sets in. But yeah, I started working for him, and that kind of took its course, and always had aspirations to be an entrepreneur and whatnot, not knowing what I was doing really, truly at that moment, but followed the lead of some people that were a lot smarter than myself, and kind of put me in the right mindset, and just had a real niche for the bail bond industry, of all things, which I never would have thought.
Do you mean, when you say niche, did you just understand it, or what was the niche?
Yeah, so I picked up on it very quickly, and then I started having thoughts of, oh my God, we could do this, and we could pitch it this way.
You saw
do
a
it
bigger
that
picture.
way. I saw the bigger picture with it, so immediately, I gravitated towards it.
It absolutely makes sense. But did you always have that entrepreneurial spirit, though? Is that something that came once you saw the bigger picture? Or does your family, are they entrepreneurs by nature?
Yes,
is that something you'd seen growing
absolutely,
up?
Yeah. I come from a very large family, lots of cousins and aunts and uncles, and the whole nine yards. But and yes, everyone has gone off and been successful in their own way, and in different things in different parts of the world, and here in the United States and in the Caribbean and things like that. And so I mean, I've grown up watching some of that stuff, for sure, without a doubt.
When you stepped out on your own, when you moved, did you like turn in your notice at the old place, the guy that you worked for that originally? You say, hey, I'm going to start my own thing? Is that the way it came about?
Yeah, and it was a little bit rough in the beginning, for sure, right? And scary.
But was he angry? The person you work for?
We've never probably ever really talked about it. I mean, we've touched on it a little bit over the years, but
you're still acquainted,
right? I mean, no, we're great friends now,
okay.
Great colleagues, one of the smartest people I know. So yes, we still do stuff 20 years later. I mean,
that's amazing.
We're still in contact on a regular basis.
I don't know that it always works like that, where you leave a company to start your own in the same industry and you remain friends.
Right. It's all come full circle, which has been great, and I'm thankful for that, and just it's just a really great relationship, and I value the insight that he has.
You talked about it being a rough start. Why?
Well, I mean, you go out. I mean, I had to put the business plan together. Never had done that before. Then you have to go out and raise capital. Figure out who's going to give this early 20-something-year-old kid $250,000, which is what the need was back in 2007 when we launched A Second Chance. Coming off of the history that I had, who's actually going to trust me with anything? I mean, forget about $250,000. Trust me to go, do something for someone, ask for a favor. Because at that point in my life, that's when I was putting everything kind of just my own pieces back together, whatever that is, whatever getting back to normal, whatever normal is.
Do you want to talk about that? Because I think people are a little bit probably in the dark about what you mean by putting your life back.
Well, I growing up as a kid and my dad passed away probably before the age, it was 2 days before my 11th birthday. And that kind of looking back now I was able to really figure out where the path went wrong. But long story short, leads me on this path of substance abuse, rehabilitation centers, detoxes, the whole 9 yards. And I basically did everything they told me not to do.
For how long?
For many years. Yeah, for many years.
So then and
it started at a young age. I would say probably around 13.
Jeez. But I don't think that's that uncommon, though.
No, not when I work with a lot of juvenile bonds and things like that, so you hear some of the stories, and I never forget any of this stuff, right? It's just one new, every day is a new day for us in this industry, and no day is the same. So I've, witnessed a lot of this stuff. And yes, there's a lot of similarities. And I think that's a lot of what's helped me be successful is hearing and living these experiences with these people that they're going through that I can relate to, that I was once there myself, and here's what it could look like. And then here are the other paths you could go down, So I think that helps keep things in perspective for me.
Do you ever talk to the kids? Like, you talk about juvenile bonds and monitoring. Do you ever talk to them about this stuff? Have any of the parents asked you to talk to them?
100%. But, it's when the opportunity presents itself, right?
It's got to be the right time.
Right, because, you're dealing with parents that are obviously devastated normally, or that are just extremely frustrated. It's an array of emotions that happens when someone gets incarcerated. So especially when it's young kids, because they've never seen anything, like, especially when they're 17 and they're going
life
to the
experience,
big, right? And they're going to the big jail,
yeah.
And not we just had a kid recently that we bonded out, high school kid, and there was a lot of panic around what was happening, and I, understandably so. If my child, my daughter, or my son was going to jail, like, I guess because what I do, I would, depending on what they did, I would be like, yeah, maybe that's what they need.
That's the consequence. Every action has a reaction.
That's right.
Everything has a consequence. Good consequence. Like if you exercise, your consequence is that that you're in good shape.
Right.
And if you do something bad, you rob a bank or a store or somebody or steal a car. I don't know. I'm just making things up. But the consequence is there is going to be punishment. So I do find it fascinating. The fact that parents would ask you to talk to their kids, it makes sense. But have you ever been reluctant? Has there ever been a situation where, like, look, I'm not comfortable talking to your kid about this?
Well, it's tough because once you open that door, you don't know where that's going to go, right? So it could be as easy as one simple conversation and never to be heard of again, or it could be something where you're continuing to work with this person or talk with this person. But I mean, I've watched kids pass away, kids that I had bonded out that have come through our system again, unfortunately for them. And, due to substance and fentanyl and all the things that are out there on the streets today, which was not, the narcotics and the pills and stuff today are different than they were when I was, back in 2000, in the early 2000s. It's just changed, and it's a lot more dangerous, in my opinion, today than it was then.
I think your opinion is backed up by fact. You see it. You hear the federal government even talking about it, state government talking about it, local governments talking about it. It gets addressed in schools. And for people that are like, I don't do any of that hard stuff. I just smoke weed. Okay. I was reading an article recently that talked about how fentanyl is even showing up in government regulated dispensaries in Florida and California and wherever else, maybe Colorado, that fentanyl's even showing up there. So you can't even trust the regulated. So if you can't trust that, how in the world are you going to trust it when you don't know where it's coming from?
Well, and the other part is the pills look the same, right? So you'll get a Percocet or a Xanax or whatever it is. it looks the same, but it's laced with fentanyl. You know, and I mean, and opiates was probably my biggest problem, I would say. But, as a kid, when I first was addicted to opiates, I didn't even know what opiates were. I had no idea. I woke up one morning so sick, okay, and was like, what's going on? I didn't know. So if it could happen to me that easily, now granted, I was being a knucklehead kid, hanging out with people, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, all of that stuff. But with that being said, I still had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
They just said, "Oh, can you get it?" Yeah, absolutely. I can get you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then one thing leads to the next, and next thing you know, now you're in this massive life crisis that I had no idea. And the problem is with opiates, once these kids get hooked on it, it becomes a lifelong problem. It's whether you like it or not. Until you accept that, then you're toast.
Goodness. And we've had an major issue in this country about opioids and opiates. That's maybe the biggest problem as far as drugs go up until now, where fentanyl's been the problem.
Well, there's even other stuff now. If you go to a lot of these vape shops and different things, you'll see there's a thing being sold now out there in gas stations all over the place. It's called Kratom. It's Kratom, and it's you can buy it legally, 21 or over, in these stores, and of course, kids have IDs and different things, but it resembles opiates, and you actually can become, because I had no idea what it was up until the other day, and I'm like, what is this? I'm like, I see these signs everywhere in shopping centers and like all this crazy stuff. Well, then I come to find out you can actually get physically addicted to it.
Oh my goodness!
And I'm like,
let's continue the conversation on the other side of the break about Kratom. Am I saying it right?
Kratom. Yeah,
Kratom.
that's what
you could buy and get addicted to. That's not like an illegal drug. That's legal to buy right now. Something you need to know about, that I need to know about, and that Daniel can share with us. I also want to go back to your origin story and ask you about the person that took the gamble on you, that gave you that seed money. I want to talk about that because I think that's a fascinating story to start a second chance bail bonds and a second chance monitoring. This is Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. Welcome back to Back Your Blue with Daniel Matalon of a second chance bail bonds and a second chance monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart. This is Extra 106.3. In that last segment, Daniel brought up something that I'd never heard of called Kratom. We're going to get to that in a second. And he told the story about someone that took a chance on him, a kid that was bouncing around in his 20s, trying to figure out which way to go, and he knew what he wanted to do, but he had to find somebody that trusted him enough to give him the seed money that would eventually become a second chance bail bonds and now ultimately a second chance monitoring too. We'll get to that stuff. Kratom. Tell me what this is again, because I've never heard of it.
I don't know. I've never taken it, so I can't speak from experience.
Right, but you've seen it.
Back in the day, yes, I could have spoken from experience.
Not today.
Not today. But yeah, I have no idea. But it basically resembles that same feeling. It basically mimics that.
What the
opioid
does.
Outcome, what it does, yeah. What the outcome is.
Which is unbelievable. And this is just sold at regular, everyday vape shops.
Gas stations
that you see all over town.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm literally the other day, I'm like, how is this possible? I mean, like, how could this honestly be possible? I mean, we're basically, I guess, legalizing opiates. If indeed that is the facts and that is true. Obviously,
but to your understanding.
But to my understanding, it is. Now, I'm not saying I couldn't be wrong, because I'm always wrong, right? But that's mind-blowing to me, because we already have such a crisis on our hands. And
the last thing we need to do is compound it.
Right. I mean, it was like the vape problem, right? It's like they got rid of some of the flavored vapes and the different things because the kids in high school were doing it. And now it's like, they've moved on from that. Now we've moved on to this other stuff. And look, it's always going to be something.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just what we're dealing with right now. Right. It's always going to be a battle.
But you said you told someone like this.
I literally told a guy who sells it in one of his stores. I said, this, I can't believe you really should not be doing this. And look, I'm not going to tell a business owner what to do with their business. I would never do that. I mean, you just don't do that. But with that being said, it's concerning to me, because I know how easy and how quick it happens, and then how quick it spirals out of control, and then where you end up from there is just not good.
What did that person tell you when you're like, dude, what are you doing?
they said that it's legal, and
Don't want to hear it.
and where the loophole is the way that it's prepared, and the actual percentages of ingredients that are inside of it is how they're able to get around it. And look, I'm not telling, look, to each his own, right? Do you all the way. But this will eventually become a problem because it's too easy for it not to be. When you can become physically addicted to something, it's a different world that you're living in.
It's like RFK Jr., who is HHS secretary, trying to be confirmed now. When he says, "Look, I just want you to know what you're consuming. Like, I'm not trying to tell you don't eat hamburgers, don't eat McDonald's, don't drink Diet Cokes. I just want you to know what's in it, what it'll do to you, ultimately, long term. I want you to know that. That way you can make your best decision for you, because nobody can make the decision but you. If you know it and you still do it, on you. That's what personal responsibility is. And I believe in personal responsibility. But there is that bit of me that's like you. It's like, this doesn't seem like a good idea. Like, of all things that we're doing, this seems like the least productive business that you can be in. And again, you can't tell people what to do on the selling side or the buying side. You can't tell people what to do because they'll rebel against that and do it just because you said don't do it.
In spite of, right?
In spite of, exactly right. But at least you know. And that's the thing. I've never even heard of this, so I can't.
I literally had to go investigate. I mean, because I wanted to know. I was like, I see this everywhere. And from a business side, you pick up on stuff like that as an entrepreneur. You're like, okay, you start to see it moving, and it starts to get legs, and then all of a sudden it's everywhere, and you see the money going behind it, and you're like, that's wild that they were able to pull that off. But hey, it is what it is.
Just be aware.
Just be aware.
Especially if you're a parent. And there's not a good likelihood that someone that's in their late teens or teens to 20s are listening right now. It's probably people who have kids or grandkids.
Oh, I'm sure it's made it through all the high schools.
I'm sure so.
I mean, no, there's no way that it hasn't. I mean, I would be shocked if it hasn't, just because of the accessibility.
I'm just learning about Zen. That's how far I am behind.
Zins, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Zins, yeah.
The Zen package, the nicotine pouches that run Major League Baseball and the PGA Tour.
Well, it's like Marlboro coming out with a way to stop smoking, right? So it's like, when you feel like smoking, come over here.
That's right.
When you want to quit, then use our technique to get off. I mean, so it's just it's part of the world of business and what they're doing. But yeah, it's wild.
I'm telling you,
it is wild.
Young men love Zen. Tucker Carlson talks about loving Zen.
Oh,
I mean, there's so
I have buddies of mine that love it. Yeah,
just nonstop. So if Zen has made it, and we're so far behind, most parents listening, grandparents listening right now have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think if there's one to stay away from, it sounds like it's the Kratom.
Yes, that's right. Sounds like. Let's go back and talk about you starting a second chance bail bonds, and then ultimately later down the road, a second chance monitoring. You had someone who said, I believe in you. I trust that you're going to do the right thing, because you had to get that seed money to start the business.
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
So it started, business planning mode, I would say probably 2006. And my best friend that I grew up with in Miami, he lives up in Boston. His dad was basically like a second dad. Josh Rutter was like a second dad to me growing up. Obviously, my dad passed away, around the age of 11, or 2 days before my 11th birthday. But I was always attached to the Rutter family and whatnot, and they've always been great to me and all that. But Josh challenged me and he says, you got to put this business plan together. And I'm like, are you serious? Here I am, early 20s. I don't know anything. I mean, I know nothing basically at that stage. I thought I knew a lot, but I didn't. And anyhow, long story short, I was able to borrow the capital from Josh and Sally initially. Which was, I think, $250 was the initial ask, and then there was working capital and stuff that was needed. So it was probably over $300 and something $1,000 ish
for a 20-year-old.
For a 20-something, 21 or 20, it was 22, 21, 22 years old, 23 years old. Yeah.
Well, when you first go up and say, Josh, Here's what I want to do, and here's what I want to need. Here's what I need.
And he was very close to all the. I mean, his brother who passed away many years ago was one of the reasons, and they were business partners in a business in South Florida, or multiple businesses, but he's the one that actually, for whatever reason, got me to actually understand why I needed to stop doing what I was doing. And you never know what's going to click in your head,
trigger,
or what's going to be the trigger to make you
good
say
good or
bad,
yeah.
right. And in this case, it was good, and so I don't know what it was, but there was something about him and how he presented it to me, and it clicked.
Make sure I got this clear. That was Josh's brother.
Josh's brother, right?
Right. Okay.
And so, anyhow, long story short, I end up borrowing the Capitol one of the scariest days of my life, because I'm like, okay,
for Josh too, I bet.
Oh, yeah. He was probably a lot more comfortable than I was, but and I'm thinking to myself, what happens? Okay, so I get
this
the money.
Goes belly up.
I get the money. Great,
work.
and then I got to pay this guy back probably by the time with interest, but over $400,000. I'm like, this is insane. I'm like, where would I even get it from? This is in the very beginning. But at the end of the day, I was like, I gotta take this leap. And
it's an amazing story, and the fact that, because I made myself a note. Every person has someone like the Rudder family. Everybody does.
Right.
They have and it may not be a monetary thing, but a person that they can attribute to giving them the hand up, giving them the first chance. Maybe it's your first job. They give you the first chance. It could be as simple as that. But I do feel like that everybody in their life has someone that has believed in them, and it might maybe it's parents.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the parents.
Well, this was just a very unique relationship. It's been a lifelong friendship with the entire family. Like, they're just great people. But Josh really, maybe I'll have to ask him one day, right?
Yes. Because I would love to know what he was thinking in that moment.
Because I know I wouldn't loan it to myself.
But exactly. That's the point, right? That's the whole point. We could do a whole episode.
I believed in it. I could have told you that we were about to, build the Taj Mahal and life was going to be great. Now, it wasn't going to happen. I have no idea. At that point, I was like lucky to put $2 together.
Right. One day we got to get Josh Rudder in here to ask him his side of the story. Like Paul Harvey back in the day. This is the other side of the story.
Yeah, and I have a feeling he's done this with, and he has done it with other people. I mean, he's been so successful, and just his story is great as well. And it's just been a really cool ride. The journey's been great, and we've gone through the ups and downs, but at the end of the day, he still is involved in the business.
Josh is still to this
day involved in every quarterly meeting that we have. He travels in from either South Florida or Canada and comes in for the meetings, and or sometimes it's Zoom or whatnot. But he's still involved today just as much as he was back in 2007.
That's amazing, and it just shows the commitment that he had to you and the business, and probably has got a good return on his investment, I would imagine.
That's safe to say. That's safe to say.
Amazing.
He definitely won on that. He made the right call there for sure.
But the whole point is everything's a gamble.
All of it is.
There was no guarantee,
and most of this stuff fails. Let's be honest.
Most
small businesses
fail.
You see so many businesses just pop up, and then by next week or a couple months down the road or a year from now, gone.
That's right.
Never to be seen. And now we're coming up on 18 years. I think there's 23 corporations in the portfolio now.
In the A Second Chance,
right? In the A Second Chance, brand, and that's just crazy, right? It started with like hope and a dream that we could just have one successful office, and then it's turned into this
Did you realize, because you said you knew the bigger picture, you saw the bigger picture, did you realize it would be as big as it is, though?
No, I had ambitions for it to be, but not where we're going now. As we've stepped outside of the state of Georgia, now we're on a national expansion and the things that we have coming, and then all the other industries and businesses that we've diversified into. It's really taken a shape that no one.
That's amazing.
That no one saw.
That's the American dream. That's the American dream. Like going from, I don't know where I'm going to get. I don't have two nickels to rub together. I don't know where I'm going to get the money to build this idea, this dream. I'm going to build it out. You rely on someone that is a family friend. They are in a financial situation that they can help you, and they do, and it explodes like the 4th of July. You know what I mean? It
happened quick. I mean, when I tell you it happened quick in 2007.
Well, what happened quick? Him giving you the money, or just
no,
the takeoff of the business?
Getting the money did not happen quick, because I had to go meet with this guy named Tim Fulton, who's a Vistage business consultant here in Atlanta, who still actually facilitates our quarterly meetings to this day. So he's been there since. He's another one that's been there since the beginning, and he put me through his boot camp and all his process, and him and Josh wore me out in the beginning, almost to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I really want to do this.
This seems like a lot.
It's a lot of work.
And a lot of expectation and a lot of pressure.
Oh yeah. Which that stuff doesn't bother me, right? I mean, I would much rather be.
But then I bet it did.
Then it did, because everything was on the line. I had nothing, right?
Yeah.
So it was
But now pressure doesn't bother you as much.
Oh no, I will. You can throw the biggest pressure ball at me known to man, and that actually excites me today. Not back then. Today,
very different. So then, what went so quickly? Just the
growth, right? All of a sudden, it took off, right? And we were net positive coming out of the gate.
Wow,
literally. So I mean, we never saw what some businesses see with the growing. Now, don't get me wrong; it has not been a perfect road, but when you see 20% growth annually for as many years that we have, it's incredible. Bless you.
How did it take off? So how do you get net positive to be? I mean, you don't have to give me the secret sauce or anything.
I mean, because we were able to drive customers right out of the gate, right? So the
market was there.
The market was there. The opportunity was there. And of course, it's taken time, right? But I mean, we didn't become the largest overnight by accident, right? But it took time. I mean, it's taken the full 17 years to get to where we are now.
Explain what you mean by the largest.
A Second Chance is the largest bail bonding company in the state of Georgia.
That's quite a statement, man, because I bet there's plenty of bail bonding businesses in Georgia. How many? Do you know how many there are?
Not off the top of my head, but it's a lot.
Is it 20?
Keep in mind, it's every county.
Yeah,
in the state of Georgia.
Yeah,
and not every county has a jail. And I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole, but I mean, there's a whole conversation behind that. But I mean, there's quite a few. But most of the ones in the metro, right? Because that's the biggest volume, right?
Right. When you talk about a second chance, because it's grown into a second chance monitoring as well. So a second chance bail bond is what you started with.
Yeah.
Second chance monitoring is what you launched since then. Is monitoring where the growth has been? Or are there other places that you see growth that you plan to navigate to as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, finding as many verticals as possible, and moving in that direction, the monitoring really came into play, honestly, because other people had asked me to do it. I had dabbled around in it probably 15 years ago, and it's a cool industry if it's used correctly, right? And if the equipment's working correctly and the systems are working correctly, there is a very good purpose for monitoring. And being in the bonding industry, it was almost natural that we had to be in the monitor, because it was
go hand in glove.
They go hand in glove.
Yeah. So why in the world would you not?
Right.
It'd be like a restaurant going, you know what? We do great burgers. I know a lot of people ask us for chicken sandwiches. It's just not where we are. You know what? Maybe we'll try it. We'll add chicken sandwiches, and all of a sudden you just pleased an even bigger portion of your audience.
Right, and what we were realizing
was throwing hot dogs in next week.
Exactly. But we had our customers that were needing monitors, and I'm like, so we have millions of dollars worth of liability. Why not us? Like, why we need to get really good at monitoring people. Just naturally, it's our own people anyway. So I mean, why not?
It's perfect.
And it's tough. It's hard. The monitoring industry is a very tough industry.
Why?
It's smaller than the bail industry, and there's not a lot of regulation behind it yet. Some states have put in state laws around the U.S., but it's the liability is so steep, and most people don't understand just the magnitude of if something goes wrong with these monitors, and it can happen at any second. So it's a 24/7 deal. With bail, it's like, yes, we're true 24/7 operation. We have people on the ground 24/7. You can always get help with us, but with the monitoring, you have to know what's going on with that device. And sometimes you have, thousands of people on monitor that you're trying to figure out what's going on. It's just a lot, and the margins are a lot smaller in that industry.
Is it because of overhead? You got to purchase all that stuff, right?
I don't think the industry's worked itself out yet. Where the problem lies is with the manufacturers, and then what they're getting the equipment back out to us for, and then if they drop it on their side, it becomes messy, and you're literally like pennies matter in the monitoring industry, believe it or not. I never thought I would ever say it. So we're still working through. We're year 5, going into year 5 of that, which has been great. We've been able to get a lot of government contracts and different stuff. But for me, it's more about the balance, right? Having retail and then government and other. So creating those verticals within the industry. It's not all about just going to get government contracts and all that stuff. But we're super passionate about what we do and how we do it. And that's what's, led us to where we are.
This is obviously a question from a layman that don't really understand what you do. What do you mean getting contracts with government versus private? I mean, isn't all like arrests through the government? I mean, they control all.
Well, yeah. Well, the judge determines if there's going to be a monitor. So sometimes people are on house arrest. Let's say it's a major felony, or the person's high risk. The judge decides they want to put them on house arrest. We go see them at the jail before they're released, and then they put on the GPS. We apply the GPS ankle bracelet to them, and then we'll monitor that defendant until the case is done. Is pretty much how. That's one variation of it. That's the most common. If someone's bonding out of jail and the judge says, well, you're high risk, we're going to let you bond out, but we also want you to have a GPS monitor on. And then there's conditions to that, and then you have to figure out where they can and can't go. If it's
almost like geofencing a little bit.
Yeah, like schools. Like if it's a crime against women or a crime against children, well, guess what? Johnny's not going to any elementary, middle school, or high school. So you have to literally draw zones around all these places to ensure that they're not going. They're not going where they're not supposed to.
And if they were to approach, you would get an alert. You would get
right, and then we can notify the officials. And ultimately, we don't decide what to do with anybody. We're just part of the process.
You're just saying, here's what happened.
Here's the data.
You're writing the report.
And then the judges and DA's office and whatnot determine how they want to move forward.
Goodness. There's so much that goes on that I have no doubt people do not understand, because most people I think this is fair to say, most people have not dealt with bonds or monitoring. I've never in my life.
It's bigger than ankle monitoring, right? And just like I always say, bail bonds, it's bigger than bail bonds. There's so many more layers to it. Now, most people that get into it, they run the business and they're just like trying to get as many monitors as possible and whatnot. There's so much more to it, which is why we are successful at what we do.
Can you give me a small example so I can understand that?
I would say basically what you're offering, what we offer and how we offer it, I would say is part of the success as well. As far as having options for people and knowing how to communicate with these people and the service side of it, having the relationships, because if you don't have that, it just doesn't work.
Makes sense. That does. Now, believe me, I don't think I could do a book report and explain it to anybody, but I'd know who to call, so I'd be in good shape.
Right. You would have no problem.
Daniel, I've got a question that I need answered. Oh, this is Back Your Blue. I want, when we come back in the final segment of the show, I want to ask you why this show, Back Your Blue, is so important to you at A Second Chance. And then maybe any fun or crazy stories that you're willing to can share. Some of the guests maybe that we've had on that have been so entertaining, like Bernard Carrick, like Dog the Bounty Hunter. I mean, we got a pretty good little list. And then so many.
I think Vernon's coming next.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
I did. He messaged me while
Vernon Jones?
Yes, Vernon Jones. Yeah, we were talking over text while I was just in Ocala, Florida.
There you go.
And he says, Dan, I need to get on that podcast, and I got a lot. And so I said, we'll get you on.
He's got plenty to say.
Oh yeah,
there's no doubt about that.
He's a great guy.
Goodness gracious! All right, so when we come back, we'll talk about those things on Back Your Blue here on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon. He is the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring, and the reason that we do this show. Welcome back to Back Your Blue with Daniel Matalon, the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Why do you think this show is so important to what you do? Why do you sponsor this? Why do you put the show on?
Well, because it's an extension of who we are and our core values and what we believe in. And I think this gives a platform to all these people, whether it's the Blankets, the all these different people that we've had on the show, to create awareness in the community, because the community is what's important to me, right? I can honestly say this. I have more fun working on these foundations and community initiatives and stuff like that, because that's what fills my cup up, right?
Yeah, sure.
Don't get me wrong, being successful and getting the big deals done, yeah, that's my
But don't go so
that's
far.
my high, right? I mean, that's my high, right? That's where I get my endorphins and my stuff from is the big deals with the lawyers and the high profile stuff and just the very complex cases,
Like Rudy Giuliani, for example.
right?
Yeah.
Right. That
when
was
you help bond him out.
right. Exactly.
Which is, could you imagine? Could 20-year-old Daniel Matalon go? Oh yeah, one day I got Rudy. I got America's mayor. I'm going to get him out of jail.
I can tell you this: it wouldn't have played out the way that it did at that time. So timing is everything, and I was definitely prepared for the moment.
No, but I love that because money only goes so far. I had this stat the other day that we had on the show, and it was: would you take more time or more money if you had to choose, or were able to choose? And I said it's so clear that it's more time.
Oh yeah.
Money. Yes, is money important? Of course it is. But money is not going to make you happy in the long run. Time will.
Yep.
Time with your family, time with your friends, time doing the things that you love, time that you care about. Much like you're describing. Those big deals are fantastic and every business needs them, sure. But it isn't going to fill your cup like supporting a local charity that's doing good.
Right.
And that's the things that we talk about on the show all the time. We put the spotlight on those police offices, those police departments, I should say.
Yeah.
When people are working hard to assist the community, to do right by the community, those are things that are warming. Those are things that will fill up your cup.
100%. And you're absolutely right. I mean, everything you said, I agree with 100%. And that to me is what I'm so thankful for in all this, that we're actually able to have that opportunity. But people need to know, like, all the GBI stuff that we've done and the different law enforcement agencies. I mean, they first of all, they're already going 100 miles an hour anyways, but it's cool to highlight some of this stuff because people just don't know. They don't know.
And the most interesting thing, and I didn't know what to expect either. When we started, I had no idea.
I got a phone call one day, and they're like, because we had been doing, marketing with Dickey Broadcasting,
Sure.
which was going phenomenal, and still is, and and they were like, pitch this idea to me, and I'm like, dude, I can't do a podcast. I was like, I was like, you want me? I was like, are we hiring someone? Because I said, you do not want me doing this. I literally stopped them like immediately, and I was like, no.
Yeah, no, but that's, I guess, when they drafted me. But and I'm glad to do it too, because I love seeing the look on the people's faces that come in here and share these good news stories, whether they are a nonprofit they're working on bare bones and they're just trying to make a difference, or it is a police officer that says we're working so hard to correct whatever it is or to help whatever it is, and you see the joy that they have on their face when they're able to tell other people, if you need help, here's how you get it.
Yeah.
And being able to share that with people, giving them the outlet to do that, it has been remarkable. That's been my favorite thing so far.
Yeah.
There's been so many of those aha moments where you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, the way this whole thing has taken shape I had it completely wrong. You know, I was looking at it as a marketing opportunity, and maybe we can make a little bit of a difference. And then it's kind of blown up into this, you know, taken shape and gotten legs, and you hear all the conversations, and it's like, it's wild. And obviously, thank you, because I mean, without you, I mean, yes, I understand. I'm the one, but yes,
it's really the guest, man. I'm doing nothing more than I'm the rudder. That's it.
Yeah.
They bring the stories. They are the boots on the ground. They are the elbow grease. All we're doing is putting the spotlight on them.
Yeah.
But without you, it doesn't happen. And without their hard work in the community, it doesn't happen. So it's been a really cool thing, and I hope you'll go back. If you've not heard some of the other podcasts, the other radio episodes that we've done, I hope you'll go back and listen to them, because there's a great value in your community that's happening right under your nose that you may not even know about. And that's the beauty of what we do here on Back Your Blue. So any crazy stories that as we get about 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes left, are there any crazy stories that people would be like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to Daniel and his team in the bail bonding business? I never expected that to happen.
God, off the top of my head, I mean, there's been so many crazy instances that have happened, but really some of the one of the wilder ones was it was a defendant out of Cobb County. It was a $80-something thousand bond, and he had gone to it was drugs, and he tried to run over 2 police officers with a vehicle, and we bonded him out. His wife's family was very successful business people in China, back and forth, had residences here and there. I mean, collateral was like not an issue.
Yeah, they're good.
Well, boy, was I wrong. He ends up going to Puerto Rico. We end up tracking him down with agents and airplanes and
bounty hunters.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards. And we've been tracking this guy for a long time. They end up intercepting him in the airport in San Juan through phone triangulation. And I mean, this guy had burner phones. The whole 9 yards.
He was prepared.
Yeah, but where he slipped up was he kept calling the mother and sister in Puerto Rico.
Got it.
And so we kept seeing this random number keep calling this one phone. Anyhow, long story short, we end up catching up to him, but you know, that actual investigation cost us over, $30,000, I want to say.
Goodness.
But they filed bankruptcy.
Oh no!
So I got stuck holding the bill for the whole thing. But this was a full, sending people on airplanes to Puerto Rico. This investigation was it was a pretty big deal for us at the time. This was some years back. But it was nuts. And we somehow intercepted him in the airport. And it was days before I was going to have to pay. I was going to have to write a check for 80 grand. Yeah.
On top of the 30
on top of all the investigation fees. So it was probably, over $100,000 problem for me. Luckily, we caught him. But I went to go get my money back, and this business guy, I've never seen this before. He allowed his daughter to file bankruptcy. And I was like, oh, he's going to bail her out. There's no way. I mean, there's no way. I wouldn't, if that would be like your own child.
Yeah.
Being like, sorry, bud.
Yeah.
You're on your own.
Yeah. You're sinking the family ship.
And the guy's very successful, so, it wouldn't have been a big deal, right? Dude, he just let it go right down the river.
So did that screw you in the end?
Oh yeah,
yeah, I figured so.
Oh, because the judgments are as good as the piece of paper that they're on. Which is useless. Yeah.
Just one of many, I'm sure.
Oh, it's
yeah. A family guy, a guy that has overcome incredible odds to do great things in the community with his business, a second chance bail bonds and a second chance monitoring, but also putting the spotlight on others doing good in the community. That's what this show's about. And we're glad that you take time to listen to it, whether here on Extra 106.3 or in podcast form. My name is Tug Cowart, along with Daniel Matalon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. Man, thanks for doing this. It was a fun show.
Oh, thank you. Without you, I would be in big trouble. So
You'd be just fine. Something just tells me. This is Extra 106.3.